It's madness, and it's just because of our ego, because we feel worthy and we feel powerful when we produce. That once you start to see that, literally it's everywhere, like our wounding, like our ego, how it's driving literally everything,
Yeah.
from a war to a forest fire to a fight between friends. This is, the work again, to liberate, to awaken ourselves, and to realize, hey, all the answers are inside of me. If I start liberating myself, everything around us benefits.
Welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen. I'm your host, Celia Antonio, women's empowerment mentor, mindfulness expert, and quantum self-love coach. Every week, you'll hear real and unfiltered stories from me and my guests covering topics around spirituality, self-expression, womanhood, healing, love, relationships, and more. My intention with this podcast is to help sensitive, spiritual, ambitious women fully step into their potential so that you can live a life you love with every cell and every fiber of your being. And I get that it's not easy to fit into a box, so I bring in a variety of topics to feed your multifaceted self. You can find me over on Instagram at self-expressbabe, and info on where to find my guests are always going to be in the show notes below. I am so grateful that you're here, and I invite you to now set an intention, sit back, relax, and receive what is coming through to you on your headphones right now. Take what resonates, leave out what doesn't, and give yourself time to reflect. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's dive in. Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to another episode of Openly Spoken. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Marijke De Jong. She is a coach and healer and devotes her life and business to guiding women through the process of their awakenings, reconnecting them to their divine feminine power, releasing their limitations, and creating a life they truly love from the inside. So, total soul sister here. We're here on the same path, and I love it. And I love this conversation. Marijke originally educated as a psychologist, and she was a corporate consultant for a decade. And she was successful by society standards, but then she realized she felt completely disconnected, not only from her career, but also herself. So Marijke moved through 2 deep burnouts, and that propelled her to rediscover her purpose, meeting her soulmate in the middle of the desert and rebuilding her life completely from scratch in a new country of Tahiti. So in this episode, we talk about how burnout is a gateway to your awakening, how burnout can be an entry point to you completely changing your life. So we talk about the different layers of burnout, what questions to ask yourself while going through burnout. We talk about starting on a dream before you're ready. We talk about mean girls and the sister wound. And we also talk about divine feminine and masculine energy and how both of those are beautiful on their own, but really the magic lies in the union of bringing this together, bringing this polarity together of the gifts from the feminine and the masculine, and how that can like completely change the world, not only on a personal level, but from the macro level. And I could talk about that for a while. That's like the juiciest part of the episode, because that really dives into, like, with burnout, it really is all about this balance of doing what you know is potent and important, but also honoring that you are in a body that has needs, and you have a full life, and there's more to your life than just work and what you do and what you can accomplish and things you can take off of a to-do list. So I'm really excited for this conversation. This is a very beautiful conversation. I hope that you enjoy, and without further ado, let's meet Marijke. Yay!
Yay! We're here.
Thank you so much for being here with me. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and with all of your listeners.
Yeah. So I know that we want to talk about today how burnout can kind of be a gateway to an awakening. And that's like such a juicy topic. I'm really excited to dive into it. But I want to first get a little more like know you a little more and get a little personal here and have a little like goddess coffee chat time.
Yes, let's do it.
And I'd love to hear about a pivotal moment in your life or something that you went through that kind of like shifted your perspective.
There's so many. There's so many. And yeah, God, I mean, I guess the most obvious one for me to would be to say my burnout, right? Because not necessarily because of the burnout itself, but because it's been some years now and it brought me really on my knees. It was
Mm,
not the first time that I felt exhausted. It was not the first time that I felt that my body just could not go on anymore. And because of that, because it was not the first time, and because I had so many stories in my mind that were saying, like, I'm making an impact in the world, I'm doing what I love, or so I thought.
mhm,
Um, Having this intensity in my body and this big of a breakdown really had me face down, to the floor, being like, something is not right. And no matter what happens, not this. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I think it's either Liz Gilbert or Glennon Doyle, but I think it's Liz Gilbert who has a beautiful little story about this, that we all get into this point in our life that we're just in the wrong place. We're in the wrong relationship, in the wrong country, in the wrong job,
mm,
whatever it may be. And it feels so deeply uncomfortable. And we
yeah.
may have zero clue of what it is that I do want, or how am I going to get out of this? But she says it doesn't matter. What matters is right now, on the deepest level of your soul, not this. And even though a lot of things were right in my life, it didn't feel right. And I just knew, not this. This is not how I'm going to spend my life. I'm not going to just recover a little bit from my burnout again.
Mhm,
And again, repeat the same cycle. Not this. I'm not going to do it. So no matter what it takes, no matter how radical I'm going to get, not this. And
mhm,
that changed everything for me. Literally everything. My
mhm.
business, my love life, the place where I live, like everything. The way I feel inside, most importantly.
So you had already started a business before this burnout. What do
No,
you
I
think?
hadn't.
Oh, you hadn't. Okay.
No,
Okay.
I hadn't. No, I hadn't. In fact, like, I had kind of like a burnout a few years before that.
Mhm,
However, I never really acknowledged it. I just quit my job at the time because it was not serving me. It was feeling like toxic. And I felt like, oh, that's the problem. That's a bit easy to say that.
mhm,
But I left that place. However, I went into another place that was beautiful. There were great people. It's not about blaming them. It was just my soul was already for long calling me to do something else, which
mm,
is, like you say, my own
yeah.
business. I
Yeah.
was just too afraid yet. Now, thankfully, I have. Took me some time, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's also relatable too. Like I feel like when we get to this point where we know that what we have in front of us, like whether it's the relationship, business, a job, we know that it's not it.
yeah,
And it can be very scary to listen to that. Very terrifying
absolutely.
because you don't know what's next.
Exactly, absolutely. And like, I'm a psychologist. Like, I studied psychology one day, and most of your listeners will probably know, like, our subconscious is wired for the known, right?
Mm,
A big part of our brain is wired to keep us safe. That's its job. It's not trying to fight us, just like how our fears are not necessarily bad thing. They're not here to annoy us. They're just trying to serve us in a way that at some point doesn't serve us anymore, but they're trying to keep us safe. And to that part of our brain, safety means known, what I know. And even if that might be a relationship that doesn't make us feel good, at least we know that we're safe, and we know where our path is going to lead. And when we let go of that, we might end up alone, or when we let go of that job, we might not make that
mm,
money. And
Yeah.
that causes, our subconscious and that part of our brain to go in overdrive and be like, no, 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 don't do this. So your
Mm-hmm.
soul really needs to be really clear, like, okay, no matter what fears are going to come, I'm going to take them hand in hand, and I'm going to still do this because I know not this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
that's at least for me.
yeah, yeah. I'm curious what you did to step out of the burnout. But first, I know that I'm going to record a little intro about who you are. But first, since we have people that are going to be listening to this, let's talk first about like what you do online.
Yes. Yes, good point.
We probably should have
um
started with that, but it's okay.
okay, we just go with the flow. Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm originally psychologist, then I went about 10 years into corporate consulting before all of this happened, and before I realized, what I truly care about, what is my mission, why I'm here, what I want to wake up for every morning is to help women to find their path in life. So I guide women basically through their awakenings in whichever way that may be. That can be spiritual, that can be emotional, that can be in different ways, into their power, into their purpose, into their empowerment, where they feel again this sense of, I'm the owner of my life, and I trust the universe. I get to surrender to that. My desires matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. So I work both with one-on-one as well as with groups. And I do it from Tahiti, from the complete opposite side of the
Oh,
world where I
that's
used to be.
amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm curious to know if you can think back to like your first awakening and how that was.
Mm, yes. That's was in the end of 2012, and it was horrible. It was really, really horrible. Like I was so confused. I started feeling so many things. Like right now, I would label it as I started becoming aware of energy. I started
Mm,
sensing myself and other people in different ways. I started to have crazy dreams, insights, visions, downloads, as I would now call it. But at that time, I was in a job that I had just started after my studies, and I was working like crazy, and all of this stuff started happening to me,
mm,
and I was just shit scared, and nobody around me had any clue. The doctor even said at some point, I was, he didn't say literally the word crazy, but and my family started to worry about me because all of a sudden I wanted to go to do Vipassana, like this 10-day silent meditation. I didn't show up for Christmas because I was in Vipassana in Myanmar somewhere. And like all of these things started to unfold in my life, but I felt really, really, really alone. And
mm,
that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, because to me, it doesn't have to be that way. And when we create what we're creating right now here, this place of sisterhood, and what you have with your audience, where you get to share with them your expression of who you are, everybody else feels so much more safe, right, to do that as well, and to
mm-hmm.
open up about whatever it may be that they're going through. It's okay, it's part of the
Yeah.
journey. And when we
Yeah.
do it together, it's so much better. So that first one was not exactly enjoyable.
I have an eyelash in my eye.
No. Oh no.
um, but yeah, I have an eyelash in my eye. I can't see it.
So maybe it's some sort of awakening, who knows. Take your time for it, no rush.
um,
But yeah, I don't know what yours were like your awakening or awakenings, or if you would even label it like
mm,
that. But my first one was horrible, and those after, I really learned to flow through with them, to ride them, and to open
yeah.
myself up to it, because it can be a beautiful experience.
Yeah. I think also like what you mentioned about like being showing up for sisterhood and like showing up here and expressing herself. That's a huge reason why I started this podcast, because there's not really many spaces where people share the actual things that aren't really labeled as like positive and perfect and like filtered and edited.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's why we're here, because when you can show up in your authenticity, you empower other people to do that too. And
Exactly.
yeah, that's so true that like if you're going through an awakening and you don't have someone else like modeling what that is and what that truth is. Because it's, in my opinion, it's like you're waking up to the truth. And when you don't see other people or you don't have other people in your life yet that are an embodiment and a representation of that truth, you're like, I'm crazy. What's going on?
Exactly. And that's like when we're going through this, we start to disbelieve a lot of the things that we thought were true, right? Like the world is
Yeah.
like this, or I have to work hard to make money, or how I create things is not like what you learn after, maybe about manifesting, how it's all about
Mm-hmm.
trusting the universe, trusting yourself, how you can attract things in your life. But when you first start waking up to that, it's like your whole everything, the foundation of what you thought was reality is being pulled out from
Mm-hmm.
underneath you. And when you have people who can catch you there and hold space while you go through all of that unbecoming, like I sometimes
Mm.
say, like when a seed starts to sprout to the outside world, to someone who doesn't get that, it would seem like total destruction, right? Because it's breaking
Yeah.
open,
Mm-hmm.
everything is like starting to come out. And if you're only surrounded by people who can only see that destruction, but they can't see that potential and that beauty that's being born in that moment, then you are going to think you're distracting yourself and you're going crazy. While in fact, you're tapping into like literally your purpose. Just like with the seeds,
Mm-hmm.
everything is already inside. There's nothing to go get or to chase or whatever. It's just about letting it come out, and you need a safe space for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I started to do group programs. Untamed is one of my group programs, and it was born because, I mean, the title is inspired obviously by Glennon Doyle's book, because I felt like so many women in my audience were resonating with that book, but they did not know, like, how do I live that authentic life? How do I express myself fully, like you say beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And all of my one-on-one clients, they were all at some point or the other saying the same, like, I feel alone, I feel misunderstood, I feel like I'm losing my old friends, I feel like, I want to start a business, but I don't know where to start, or like I even am capable. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, when we get to see each other in that, all of a sudden we can wake up also to, whoa, if she can do it, that's not something to be jealous of. That's like, fuck, that means that I can do it too.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
can start to like lift each other up instead of being this competition that, to me, often the corporate world that had me at least kind of caught in that world of competition and constantly trying to
Mm-hmm.
be better than others instead of being inspired by others. It's so much more free and liberating to me.
Yeah. So true. Because you can accomplish so much more in community.
Yes.
And even if your community is just your one-on-one coach, like she's holding space for you and she's mirroring back to you what you just said out loud. And when you hear your own words from someone else's mouth, you're probably like, wait, that's actually not true. Like it's
Exactly. Exactly. So true. Yeah.
and something that you just kind of spoke to now, it's probably resonating with me because like I'm revisiting my own sister wound stuff,
Mm.
the competition and the jealousy and stuff like that. And I think that's also like what you just mentioned right now. Instead of seeing it as something to be jealous of, you see it as, oh, this is also possible for me. That's like an awakening that I feel like all women go through at some point. Hopefully they all
Mhm.
get to go through this because at least here where I live, I don't know if it's like this where you grew up, but like in movies, there's like when I was in high school, the movie that was popular was Mean Girls. And like I
Mean
grew up
Girls.
watching like my mom loves 80s movies and like all of those 80s movies are like set in high school and there's always like mean girls being mean to each other and stuff. And
I will
there's
tell you, there
so
was,
much
yeah,
there.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Right? There's so much there. No, I just, when you were saying this, what popped to my mind is that I had some guy friends in college who were even talking about this, and they had labeled it as what they called the light theory. And I was always like, light theory. They would be like, oh yeah, that woman, light theory, right? Light theory. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? And then they explained that they observed that most of the women they knew could not stand seeing the light in other women's eyes.
Ooh.
And I was like, what? That's nonsense, blah, blah, blah. And then later I started to realize, like, fuck yeah, we're all so jealous and we're all
Mhm.
feeling threatened by each other instead of, like we said
Mhm.
before, like inspired. And I think what you're, what you're doing, what we're doing, because me too, like I'm still in process. I'm
Mhm.
definitely not finished. Like we're never finished healing.
Yeah.
In healing that sister wound, like the key is in one thing, connection. Because when
Yeah.
we connect with another,
Mhm.
we will always really see, like, oh, she also has pain and she also has fears and she also has something that inspires me. And then you can get to see the whole person and also share your own vulnerabilities of, like, oh, actually I'm pretty stuck in this area of my life, or I feel afraid in that area of my life, or and then all of a sudden, when we're connected and when we see the whole person and when we show our whole person, which is not the same as the one on Instagram, then we can like embrace also again those parts of ourselves that might feel insecure or jealous, and realize,
Mhm.
actually, the fact that I'm jealous is just showing me something that I desire, the fact that I
Mhm.
see something that I want also. So it can be like an inspiration, but like you say, it's a journey, and I'm also very much in it. Some days I'm super inspired by other women and other sisters, and other days I'm like, she's further than me, and why am I not there yet? And then I do the work on myself, right? That's the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. It's a beautiful process. And you mentioned earlier too something about like when you go through an awakening, you can maybe find yourself losing friends. And that's also been like a little aspect of the sisterhood wound of like realizing
Mm,
what friendships aren't actually in alignment. And
yeah,
gosh, it's so painful. It's so painful.
it's
It's really
so
hard to
painful.
like friends that you've had since childhood and realizing like we're not healthy for each other.
Yeah,
Oh, it
absolutely.
sucks.
Absolutely, yeah. I had it recently even
Mhm.
happen for the first time in my life, that I had not just something like fading away, but an actual friendship breakup, that I was like, wow, this is new.
Mhm.
But it was, it was needed. It was not, flowing. We were not supporting each other. We were not inspiring each other as we were supposed to, like as
Yeah.
friends.
Mhm.
And then at some point it's healthier, like just like a relationship, it can be sometimes better to let each other go.
Mhm.
And I've also found, like with friends from childhood, that sometimes when you let each other go, then some years after, like you can
Yeah.
re-meet again and like rediscover each other. But when you
Mhm.
when you're when you keep clinging, is like, imagine that you're in a boat and you're falling over, and then if you're clinging to each other, then you're just both gonna sink. But when you're like, okay, we're both responsible for our own selves, our own lives, our own, rescue, liberation, and you go up to the surface, then maybe
Yeah.
one goes to the one side and one goes to the other side, or maybe you swim back together again and you have a
Mhm.
new kind of experience. But yeah, it can be hard for sure. Absolutely. That's, I think, also the truth of awakenings. It's, you can only truly awaken, in my perspective, and get into your fullest expression and potential when you see the shadows, right? When
Yeah.
you are willing to see the pain and the, I think it's Jung, but I always get my quotes wrong, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But he says something like, enlightenment is not about like sitting around and thinking about light and love and light, but it's about looking at the shadows and putting light on them. And
Yeah.
by doing that, things become lighter. You become more liberated. But when we try to not look at them and just push them in a corner and
Mhm.
just chant a beautiful mantra, in the end, to me, that's not an awakening.
Yeah. It's
Which is not to say that it always has to be hard or heavy. it can be fun and a beautiful process,
Mhm.
just as long as we're open.
It's interesting too how like that's so commonly like if you take the whole human population, it's so commonly like we don't like to look at our pain. Like we like to distract ourselves and we like to numb
Yes,
ourselves. And because we think, like how you said, the mind has this like knowing, the mind knows, like, oh, that hurts. So I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay safe over here. But
exactly,
really, from avoiding it, like you're creating like a lifetime of pain, a lifetime of being limited, a lifetime of
exactly,
like dimming your light.
exactly.
But when you
And
can go through it,
exactly, then there's freedom on the other side. And I'm right
mm-hmm.
now, like as you are working on your sister wound, I'm right now really in a really conscious process that whenever I get triggered, I take my attention off of the trigger, off of the, what I may want to react to the outside world, and really into my body. And I feel like, okay, what's happening? And that is fucking uncomfortable because, our brain, our mind is, the thing is, it's not just pain, but it is pain that has been stored at the age level that it initially happened. So I'm sure
mm,
you know this,
yeah.
but your audience, your listeners may not. Like when you're 6 and something happens that really is hurtful, or where you think like I'm not good enough, or I'm being rejected, or whatever it may be, I'm being abandoned, then that pain for a little child is so overwhelming that what
Mm-hmm.
our consciousness does, it kind of splits and it puts that in a little box behind the
Mm,
door, because right now we're not strong enough to feel it and to let that out.
mm-hmm.
And that's actually great, because as a kid you are not strong enough to feel or to have that realization, so it's just a protection. However, our journey, like the awakened journey, the self-expressed babe journey, is to express also that, right? To learn to realize, hey, actually today I am strong enough to feel that. Today I am strong enough to open that door, to let it pass out of my system, pass through my system and out. And then all of a sudden on the other side, you're like, whoa, there's joy, there's love, there's creativity, there's sexuality, there's whatever
Mm-hmm.
may be there. And we are all strong enough, like everybody who's listening right now, like you are 100% strong enough. It's just sometimes we all need to be held by someone else while going through the process.
Mm-hmm.
That's really helpful. Yeah.
And then that can kind of take us back to how I was wondering earlier when you got burned out at your job after your training. And when we get burned out and you had your awakening and you were like, this is not it. How did you move forward from there?
Mm. I mean, I think everybody who is or has been in like a really, really deep burnout knows that the first period, it's like 100% body. Like
Mm,
you can't do anything. Like I would say body, like physical, mental, emotional, and then spiritual.
mm,
So first your body needs to regain its strength. So I slept, I slept, I slept, I slept, I slept as best as I could. I ate healthy, I nourished myself, I took supplements, I the days that there was a little sun outside and I could pull myself to it, I would go for a walk in the park. And slowly, slowly I started to like be on my race bike a little bit, not push myself, like stay away from the push, push, push. I have to achieve
mm-hmm.
anything, be really in my feminine, you could say, like in my feminine energy of being, because I had been so long in doing, only
Me
doing
too.
all the time. I think, I'm sure all of us in some way, because we're living in a society that's,
Mm-hmm.
that is constantly demanding that of us to be productive. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so first the physical part, and then I went yeah, I went inside, and I asked myself some deep questions about how did I end up here again, but more importantly, what is it that I really want? Like, if I'm really
Mm,
honest with myself, what is it that I desire? And I often say to my clients when I ask them these questions, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know," or they panic like I would like some years ago. What the only thing that matters is that you know that you take a little stone of the dam in the creek, like you take a little stone, you let some water come through. Maybe you only know that's not this. Maybe after that you only know like, oh, I would love to have more time for myself. Okay, that's great. Maybe then you know like, oh, I love to listen to people. You know, I want to listen to people today. And maybe then you know that water starts to flow and the dam
Mm-hmm.
starts to break down little by little until at some point you realize, oh, my purpose is to, you know, to be a healer or a massage therapist, or to you can there's nothing wrong with being an employee somewhere. Like I want to lead people, I want to whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But starting small, like is gonna open the floodgates right in the end,
Yeah.
for you to be more in connection with yourself and with your soul. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
went for me, at least. Yeah. And then I'm sorry. Then as the floodgates had opened, I met my man, my partner, uh in the middle of a desert. And then I moved my entire life to the other side of the world, and I had no more job. So I like, it was kind of like the universe was saying, okay, you know now better and better what you want. We know you're still afraid to start doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but you have no choice because they speak French here. You don't get a work permit. You can only work for yourself. So good luck. And yeah, there I went. Like I had to. There was no choice anymore. So thank you, universe. Otherwise, I may never have.
The universe conspired for this.
I suppose so. And in the moment, you know, sometimes when the universe is doing something that is in the end in our favor, we can be pissed or sad, or we can be like, why are you doing this to me?
Mm,
Or why can't, is there no job? Or,
yeah.
but when you're able to see through that and just be like, okay, what is being asked of me right now? And
Mm-hmm.
take responsibility for that,
Mm-hmm.
always something beautiful is going to come at the other end,
So
in my
true.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about like taking the little rock from the dam, and as the water starts to flow, it grows gradually. I think
Yeah.
that's because like when you take an action, that gives you like feedback. It gives
Mm,
you it gives like
I love that.
even if like you decide to start a business, like my own business journey, I started as a graphic designer, and I was a yoga teacher before, and I knew I wanted to work with people with that same like intimate level, but I didn't know how to yet. And I'm like, all right, I have graphic design skills. I'm going to help women express themselves by creating graphics for people who don't know how to do that. And with time, I kind of had the same message of you of like, this isn't it. And like
Yeah.
taking breaks and being like, all right, what do I really want? And it came little by little, and it came with like being scared. Like when I when I got the message that I needed to be a
Right.
coach, I was like, hell no, I can't do that.
Yeah. I feel you. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think you're so spot on. Like with, you know, when we act, then things move. But I think
Yeah.
I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist, or procrastinator, maybe is better to say it. Simply because of, you know, I always say procrastination is just, or perfectionism is just a shield against vulnerability, because you only want to show yourself to the world when it's perfect and when it's completely
Mm,
ready.
yeah.
But like you say, like when you don't act, you're never gonna get that feedback, and you're never gonna know. And like I've already changed millions of things ever since starting my business. And I'm like, what was I doing all the way at the beginning, you know? But if I wouldn't have done that, I would never have been here. And
Yeah.
probably in 2 years I'm gonna be thinking the same about what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's is the point is just expression, you know, creating, expressing yourself where you are now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to lead you, yeah, into the next thing. I Because if you wouldn't have been that graphic designer, you would probably never be doing what you're doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
would have never gotten that message or that signal or
Mhm.
yeah.
Because that was
So
really like the push of like, you have these skills already. So start now with this instead of waiting. So
just
if
start.
anyone's
Yeah,
listening who wants to start a business, honestly, just start with the skills you already have.
exactly. Start before you're ready.
Yeah.
Like
Which,
start.
yeah, which is like such a cliche. Like you hear it a lot on the internet, but like it's so true.
Yeah,
And it's like, it's one thing to say it, but it's completely different to do it. So maybe
that's
we
true.
can share some like, would you have any tips for people to actually like get the momentum to go? Like if they're like, feeling their blocks or if
Mm,
they're feeling like that perfectionism or procrastination?
totally. I mean, one is what we said already. Put yourself in a space with inspiring people that support you, whether that is a coach, whether that is a group of sisters, whether that is a co-working space, whether that is a mastermind. To me, it changes literally everything because when we are in our stuff, procrastination, perfectionism, pain, not feeling good enough, our mind will throw anything at us to make us not do the thing, not do the thing. So sometimes we need others like that, that girl who's also building her business, or the colleague next to you on the next desk who's telling you like, hey girl, you said you were going to do this today,
Mm-hmm.
or we are going to record this and that today, no matter if we're both nervous, no matter if you're ready, like do the thing. Like to me, that is and has changed everything. And here in Tahiti, like for me, it was pretty hard at the beginning because I didn't speak any French,
Mm-hmm.
learning little by little, but still could learn a lot more. So I didn't really also have that community over here. So at some point I was like, okay, I need that. I'm not moving forward the way I would like to. So I'm going to find it online. Like we live in a
Mm-hmm.
world where anything is possible. And even when I'm telling myself the story, nobody gets me, nobody, that's just blah, blah in the mind. Like there are people out there that really get you and that really can support you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe for you, that's your friends, your parents, your mom, your coach. Like it doesn't really matter. That's one really important one. And in line with that, I would also say plan things you cannot get out of. Like for me, making deadlines and saying to people, okay, I'm gonna do that then. For my style, my personality, that really helps me to be like, okay, fuck, I said I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna follow through on my
Mm-hmm.
words. So again, whether you say to your audience, you're gonna do this or this course or this masterclass, or you're gonna post one post per week. If you're just starting out, doesn't really matter. But say to yourself and to others, and have people keep you accountable,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're doing things that you're afraid of. Like I remember the first time I was doing an online masterclass, even though I had been a consultant, a trainer, like I had audience of hundreds of people like physically in front of me, but there was a huge block in starting to do it online. And I made that deal with my coach, and if it would have been just me, like I would have definitely backed out of it. And now I love it. Like now I'm excited. Like every time I plan something, I create something, I love it. But you need to go through that bump.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'm sure you have other little bits of magic that has helped you, like to really get ready. But these are the first that,
Yeah,
or to
those are
really
all
start
great.
getting ready.
Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah.
also, I'll just add one tip is to ground yourself and to have like grounding
Mhm.
practices to just really like
Absolutely.
regulate your nervous system. I think regulating your nervous system is such a huge part in showing up as a leader.
Mhm.
And even in friendships, like how you said, you can really find people who get you. If
Yeah.
your nervous system is still in like I'm not safe mode and you meet someone who gets you, you're probably gonna be like,
Mhm.
this is too good to be true. This isn't safe, or I'm not worthy of this. And
I love that. Yeah. I love that you're mentioning that, because also for burnout or almost burnout, or even right now, I'm doing what I love and my soul is absolutely happy. And still, it is crucial for me to take care of my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Crucial, crucial. And even last year, I've been on quite a journey with that. So you're
Mm-hmm.
you're spot on. It's so so important. And for me, on that nervous system piece, the yoga nidra, maybe you've heard of
Mm-hmm.
it or you've used it also, but for the audience listening, yoga nidra is something that sounds very active, but yoga nidra is basically sleep. Yoga, so you're not moving, you're just lying down, and someone is guiding you into a state between wakefulness and sleep. And it really, really, really brings you both into your body as well as into what we call homeostasis, like the state of your
Mm-hmm.
body where your body knows exactly how to heal itself, exactly how to calm itself. You just need to help her to get in that state. And yoga nidra has been like my medicine. Like still almost every day, I take can be 20 minutes, can be 30, 40 minutes, depends. I just plug my headphones in my ears. I lie down, and they say 30 minutes of yoga nidra is about equal to 4 hours of sleep. I won't be able to prove that, but to me, it definitely feels like, yeah, medicine for the nervous system, like you say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that because that's a practice I haven't done in years. That's so
Mm,
powerful though.
yeah. Yeah. It's like sometimes we take our different lanes and then sometimes we come back to stuff, right? And
Yeah.
we evolve beyond it. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's one of the few practices that have stayed with me for years and years. Like I swear by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's me with
So,
breath work. I love breath work.
yeah. What kind of breath work do you do?
I like doing it's called shamanic breath work on the video I use where you breathe in and out through the mouth and you do it for
Ah, yes.
like 45 minutes. And I usually
Yeah.
play like shamanic drumming. I also really like alternate nostril breathing.
Yeah.
Where you breathe in through the left and yeah,
Yeah. To
those two are
balance
really
also.
good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like with the shamanic breath work and like the breathing through the mouth, it's really powerful. So for your emotions, right? I don't know how you
Mm-hmm.
experience that,
Mm-hmm.
but like
Yeah.
going back to what we were saying before, like working through your triggers and your fears, like having
Yeah.
a physical practice like that is can be really so helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like work through your emotions like that as well?
Yeah. I like to do just like allowing myself to cry if that comes up. Or
Hmm.
since we're both in a Shay, one of a Shay's containers, right? Are you in orgasmic abundance?
No, I mean the quantum year.
Okay. I did orgasmic abundance last year and she had a sacred rage practice. Maybe she did something like that for you too.
Not
No.
yet. Not yet. No.
I like doing that too, where you basically like you like punch pillows and you say no and you like do like very like static like masculine energy type of poses. Like those two things have been really powerful for me. It's like
Yeah.
my as a kid I was very angry about a lot of things, but it wasn't safe for me to express that anger. So like that's
Mm.
been recently like coming out a lot. I'm like, wow, I have all this rage in my body.
And it's so healthy, right? Because again, also many, many people who experience burnout, they're the ones who cannot say no. They're the ones who cannot put their
Yeah.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that all of our emotions are sacred and they're here for a reason. There are no right or wrong emotions. And anger is directly correlated to your ability to set boundaries because when you
Mm,
cannot feel your anger inside of your body, you also won't be able to feel that urge from the inside that says, actually, no, no. Like even when you just say, no, you can feel in my voice, right? There's no, like there's a little tiny little bit of angry energy.
mm-hmm.
And I've had so many clients, and I was like that myself that I just always said, yeah, I'm just not an angry person. Everything's okay with
Mm,
me and I'm happy when others are happy. And I literally could not feel my anger. And
mm-hmm.
in the process, the journey that followed was not like, oh, here's the 5 steps to go through anger. No, like there were a few like pretty ugly moments where all of the sudden, like you say, I could feel my anger coming, like at the beginning a little bit, and then all of a sudden I started to realize, like, fuck, I let this person walk over me for all my life, or
Mm,
oof. And but having a physical practice to let these feelings again pass through is
mhm,
so empowering, because then you can come back to a neutral place, where you can actually feel the smaller signs of anger, right? Which you can feel
mhm.
like, hey, wait a second, this really doesn't feel right. No, I'm not going to say yes. Actually, no, point.
Yeah.
And if you cannot, so I help my clients also, to learn to feel that, to really feel and feel, where's my no in my body, for example, like,
Mm,
where do you feel that? And so many of us are so mentally oriented that we actually have no clue, and we're like, where's it in my body? Like, I don't know. But
mhm.
once we know also, like, where's our yes in our body? Like, where do I feel like, oh yeah, I want this? It's the simplest thing, right? But it's
Yeah.
so powerful and so important in this mental world, to be in our
Mhm,
body,
mhm.
even when it's not comfortable.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then sometimes as women, like how you mentioned earlier, how like we can get cut off from our feminine because we live
Yeah.
in this very like masculine world. In my own experience, I felt like I was very cut off from my feelings. Like
Mm.
right now, the relationship I'm in when we first started dating, he's very connected to his feminine. So he would ask me like, how are you feeling? And like be actually interested. And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like now that I see it now and I'm working with divine feminine stuff, I'm like, whoa, 3 years ago when he asked me that question, that was like my beginning of diving into feminine work. I just didn't know that that's what it was.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? To see also, like, where you are now, and where you've been, and yeah, it's can open up so many beautiful doors. And again, I think because we are in such a rational, hustling,
Mm-hmm.
masculine oriented world, which, just to be clear, the masculine inherently, like the divine masculine, is beautiful, and we need him, and we need that
Mm-hmm.
energy. But when we're either in a wounded masculine energy of domination, overpowering force, or when we just forget our feminine altogether, or both,
Yeah.
then the problems arise. And what you said before, like, how you were cut off, like, from your intuition and your feelings, that same, like, when I in the corporate world, one of my biggest struggles was that I'm a super sensitive being.
Mm-hmm.
And as I had my first awakenings many years before that, so I was open to all of those things. But when I wanted to express something, I felt like I constantly had to give the 3 bullet points, or the 5 reasons, or the 6 arguments for, I was a consultant, so everything is in bullet points and rationality and whatever, for why I was trying to feel what I was feeling, or why I wanted to share what I was sharing. And many times it was just like, this, what we're doing right now, just really doesn't feel right.
Mm.
But in the corporate world, in most places, like in some places, like my last company that I worked, was amazing, but still, with our clients and with the corporates that I worked for, like, that's not something that is generally accepted or appreciated, or
Mm-hmm.
because we want to be in control, right? And feelings are not something that you can control. Intuitions is not something that you can control. So that's the journey to move from control to trust.
Mm.
And the more you can trust yourself, the more you can trust the universe. Again, little by little, by like one little stone is already a lot, in the beginning. The more things can flow, like the more money can flow, the more love
Mm-hmm.
can flow, the more excitement or passion in your relationship, or whatever it might be. But yeah, I was also very, very stuck in that rational world or mode
Mm-hmm.
that can be very blocking for our intuition.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah.
interesting too how like the reason why the world is in this state is to make money and have like success and stuff like that. But inviting those like feminine qualities supports that as well. And like the systems we're in now are actually going to sabotage what we want.
Yeah.
Like we can't keep doing certain things because it's going to lead to burnout. Whether it's
Absolutely.
people burning
Yeah.
out, whether it's the earth burning out, whether it's like the
Literally.
forest burning out, like
Yes.
it's not sustainable. And
No.
I read this thing, it might have been in Women Who Run with the Wolves, or maybe in another book, where she was talking about how like tribes used to have like the men would go out and hunt, but there were women in charge who would tell the men when to stop hunting so that nature could rejuvenate herself and so that
Mm.
the
Wow.
animals they're hunting can repopulate themselves. And I think that's what's missing right now in our society. Like we don't have that rejuvenation for people who are working 9 to 5 because they're working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
2 weeks vacation if they're lucky. And like natural resources, we're just constantly taking and taking and taking and taking. And it's
Yes.
wild that it's not sustainable. Like when you can really see it, even on a logical level, like you would think they would understand on a logical level that it's just not,
Mm.
we're gonna be forced to have to invite more
Yeah.
feminine qualities into how we operate.
Absolutely. I got the goosebumps to what you're just saying. Like, and I always like sometimes I have clients who will come to me and they feel like they're crazy. They're like, why can everybody do this and not me? Like, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, and they think I'm crazy. And I tell them, uh, knock knock, we're animals. We are
Mm,
literally like honestly,
yeah.
like people may think I'm crazy when I say this, but we are animals. Like we are designed to, to make love, to go to get an inner urge of like, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, let's go hunt, or the men or whatever, and to lie around and to make some food and we're living in this insane like matrix or illusion that we've put on ourselves where we're
Yeah.
like, I need to sit behind the desk and produce, produce, produce to be worthy of what? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, of love. Like that's the inner thing. But we're animals and there's nothing wrong with you if you feel like you need rest, or there's nothing wrong with you if you feel like, my God, I wish I could take a couple of months off, because you're
Mm-hmm.
actually supposed to be 50-50, in action and in being, in masculine and in feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's madness what we're doing. Like
Yeah.
it's madness, and it's just because of our ego, because we feel worthy and we feel powerful uh, when we produce, produce, produce. And it's sometimes I'm laughing with my partner, like that once you start to see that, literally it's everywhere, like our our wounding, like our ego, how it's driving literally everything,
Yeah.
from a war to a forest fire to a fight between friends. It's
Mm-hmm.
and this is, the work again, to liberate, to awaken ourselves, and to realize, hey, all the answers are inside of me. And if I have no more stuff inside of me, if I'm no longer being, I mean, we will never be 100% enlightened maybe in this life, but if I start liberating myself, then everything around us benefits, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
this conversation's so beautiful.
right, I could talk on for hours.
So I have a few like rapid fire questions I'd like to do at the end, and then we'll share
Yes.
where people can find you online.
Cool.
Okay. So first one is, what does self-love mean to you?
Hmm. I could talk for hours, but the first thing that comes might feel and sound ridiculous, but one of my love languages is touch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if your audience knows about love languages. Otherwise, definitely Google it, because it's so good to know your love languages. So for me, it's like holding space for myself and loving myself with everything that's there, the
Mhm.
ugliness, the beauty, the successful launch, the failed launch, and not like loving myself even more in those dark places. And sometimes I love to do it, like even like literally like physically, like giving myself a hug, can ask my partner, I can. But for me, it's my inner child really feels loved when, my parents were always joking when I was a kid, like, oh my god, you want so many hugs. But yeah, it's just, I love that. So, and I
Yeah.
can give that to myself also. So, yeah, I would say loving myself, both the beautiful parts and the shadows. And that is a life journey that is sometimes working out perfectly and sometimes it's harder. And
Yeah.
that's life, right? Yeah.
I love that. Okay, next one. Finish this phrase. The way to my heart is.
Chocolates?
I love this one
The
because it
way,
always is
the,
a fun answer.
yeah, I
Yeah,
was like, chocolate,
it's always a
obviously
fun
not.
answer.
I mean, yeah, chocolates definitely, and like authenticity, like the
Mm,
real you,
yeah,
whatever that may be, like the
yeah.
real you. It's, I mean, poof, my heart just opens. Yeah.
When do you feel most alive?
Oh, I get like a feeling, like an image of like opening and being maybe on my bike or my scooter in, with someone, that can be a friend, that can be my partner, that I
Hmm.
love, like on an adventure.
Ooh,
But it can also be literally, being in a cuddle in the bed in a moment where I'm feel really, really present, or making love, or whatever. But what came first is this this adventure
expansive.
feeling of something new. Yeah, expensive. Yeah,
Hmm.
so
Okay, last
being,
one.
yes.
What's your favorite part about being a woman?
Oh wow, I love that one. Oof, I can already feel like almost some tears, inside, because it's been a really, really long journey to actually love that, and it's still in
Mm,
process. But I would say my body,
mm,
because I hated her for so long, so many
mm.
parts of her, like everything was wrong with her so much. And yeah, literally, it can still bring tears to my eyes, both for myself as well as all of us, how much we hate our bodies.
Yeah,
But learning to love her, to find pleasure through her, to find my intuition through her, to find, my answer to my life's questions through her. Um, yeah, it's huge. And I'm super grateful to her, to my body, that she's still with me in
yeah.
spite of all the harsh words I've told her, and in spite of all the like burning her out, literally like ignoring her for so long, that I that I burnt her out. And yeah, I guess that's why. And also in my burnout, I said, okay, I'm gonna listen to you now. It's gonna might not be easy, and I might fail at it sometimes. But that for me is again that gateway to awakened living, to listen to the wisdom of your body, and step by step everything is gonna flow from there. She's not our enemy. She's just here to lead us to our highest path, our biggest potential, and our soul. And it's a journey that I'm still on, and I'm learning so much every single day. But I'm grateful for the ride.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and
Yeah.
for all of your listeners who are amazing women who are on this journey of expressing themselves and finding and living their highest life. Like I bow to all of us, and I hug all of us in circle. We're all doing an
Oh.
amazing job.
And where can they find you online?
Yes, they can find me. My company is called My Rumia. So my is like the English word my, and Rumia is Rumia. It's the Tahitian word for the creation, the holding of space for both the light and the dark. So
Mm.
my Rumia means like my safe space, my safe space to be me. So Rumia is Rumia, and I'm on Instagram at my Rumia. My website is myromia.com. And I would love to connect with your people. I'll be doing a free masterclass again soon, so they can find all about that on my Instagram. And I would love to connect.
Beautiful. I'll put those links in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh,
Thank you.
I have tears in my eyes.
Yes, me too. My heart is like open and like you found the way to my heart.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Openly Spoken. I know that there's an abundance of content online, so I really appreciate you giving me your ears today. If this episode shifted something for you, please share this with a friend and/or write us a podcast review if you're listening to this on iTunes so that more people can find this. If anything shifted for you from this episode that you want to have a conversation about, I would love to hear from you. Just send me a DM over on Instagram at selfexpressbabe, and that is in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.